In this NVivo 15 for Mac tutorial, I'm going to talk more about coding, and in a previous video I've already dealt with the drag and drop method, and I'm going to introduce 3 other ways to code and also show you how to uncode. So of course, when you're coding data, you do have to be able to see your files. So I've already opened up one of the survey files that I'm going to be coding. And one of the ways, you have 2 situations. One, you may be coding to a node that you already have created, and it's easy to, I'm going to show you some ways to code to an existing node, but you may also be highlighting a section that needs a new code. A new code needs to be created at the same time you're reading the segment. So both of those are possibilities. So let's take a look at the answer. My children are very. What ideas would you like to share about the language of the books that we have sent home? Do you have any comments on the translations of books? And the parent responds. The translation of the parent's response is, "My children are very capable of reading these books because they are in Spanish, and because of this, they can read and explain the books." So I don't know that that I have anything that I've already created any categories that deal with translation. So so I think I need a category that says translations, or maybe translations of books. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight the section that I want to code, and then I'll show you several ways that you can make a new node. So go to the Home tab, then go to Code, and you can see that you can code to an existing code, but I already said I didn't have one, so I need to create a new code. So it's going to code the selection to a new code, and I'm going to create the code at the same time. So the Code Properties box comes up. I'm going to call this Translations. I think I'll just leave it like this. Parent mentions translations of books to languages other than English. Okay, I've created a new code, and I've also coded to that. And the way we can tell that when we create this new code, it goes to the top level of the hierarchy. So here it is. Here's my new code that's called translations. So let's click on that and see if we find this segment of text in it. Yep, there it is. So that's one way you can code to a new node. We'll go back just to show how that works again. You go to Home, and then to Code, and then either to an existing code, and I'll show you how that looks in just a minute, or to a new code, which is what we just did. If you want to code to an existing code, I've got, the books are all wonderful, interesting books, so I think I've got code that can do that. I've got about books. I think I'll just code directly to the superordinate category there. It's pretty general. So this is going to give you a list of all the codes you have. You can open up and see the child codes. You're just simply going to click the blue box next to the code that you want to use and click Select, and we'll find that we've coded this little segment here to about books, and I can show you that it's there. They're wonderful, interesting books. Has been added to the group. Okay, so let's go back and I'll show you some other ways to code. Let's see, not too much else to code on that one. Let's go to Capone's. What ideas would you like to share about the language of the books that we have sent home? Do you have any comments on the translations of books? And it just says they do very well communicating with children. So I'm going to see if I can code this one also to that translations category we just created. Here's another way to do that. As soon as I highlight something, this quick code light bulb becomes a colorful thing, and I can code there. And it's going to give me a list of all the codes here. So I'm looking for the one that's called translations. And of course they're in alphabetical order, so there it is. Nodes. And nodes is an old term that other that other versions of NVivo used for code. So, nodes and codes, same thing here. I'm going to just click on that, and it's been coded. So they do very well communicating with children. Let's just check and make sure that it went where it was supposed to go. There that is. They do very well communicating with children. And of course we can tell that it's from the Capone file because, we use the little blue link, so I could click there and we see it in context. So those are two other ways that you can code without dragging and dropping. The other way is one that I think is maybe the easiest of all. So let's go to another file that has something to code. We'll code this first bit. How often do you read the books in your child's family backpack? This child says, or this family says twice, sometimes more. So if I highlight this segment and then I control click, I get an action menu, and notice it says code selection, and we have the same choices that we had before, to existing codes, to a new code, and so forth. So I'm going to code it to an existing code. It's going to give me the list. I've got times read, and I think it said more than 2 times, so I'll choose that. Now, one of the advantages of doing coding this way is if you want to code to a segment to more than one category, you could do that. So I could choose another category and code it to more than one at the same time. I wouldn't have to do the process twice. So in a case that you have a segment that you want to code to several categories, existing categories, this is definitely the best way to do it. So just to review, the ways that you can code, we drag and drop, we've talked about that in another video. That's one possible way. Another possible way to code is to come up to the Home tab, use the code choice, and then we get our existing codes and new code choices. Another way to do this is to use the quick code light bulb and choose the code here directly, and then the other one is to highlight and control click and use the code selection menu that comes up there. So NVivo is quite flexible. There's lots of different ways to code. Different people will have different preferences in their coding practices, but it's nice to have all of these different options. So inevitably, you're going to want to not only code things or code segments, but to uncode segments. You may have put them in the wrong code category. You may decide later, as you think about it, that you want to code less of a segment and remove part of it. So this idea of being able to uncode is also very important. Essentially, it's in most cases just the reversal of coding, as we would guess. So if you're looking at your event, at your file, one of the things you want to be able to tell is where your data has been coded to, which categories. The best way to do that is to click in Detail View and then to turn on coding stripes in this ribbon right up above Detail View. So I'm going to click there. I'm going to ask to see all the codes that have been used on this file, but there could be occasions where you only want to see some particular codes, and you can select items as well, but I'm going to do all. And what you see are these vertical stripes that go down the side that are labeled with the name of codes or categories. So for example, we see this first little purple stripe shows that this whole 3-line segment has been coded to more than 2 times. Let's just imagine that I wanted to uncode from there and talk about how we could go about doing that. The first way to do that is to highlight the segment, go back to the Home tab, and instead of using the Code button, we're going to use the Uncode button. And we're going to uncode from an existing code or case. And in this case, we're gonna look for all. We've got all the codes, and the only one that there's only going to be there only will be one that's highlighted. That's the one that it's coded to. So the others are going to be grayed out. So I had to find more than 2 times because that's what I saw over here on my coding stripe. I'm going to click that. I'm going to select it, and it will uncode. And you see it disappear here from the coding stripe. So I've now uncoded it from that segment. Let's talk about another way to uncode. So let's look at the next one. This little segment right in here is this segment in here, this line seems to be coded to like illustrations. and I'd like to uncode that. So one of the ways that we can go about doing that is by coming over to the coding stripe and hovering above it, and or clicking it, and then control clicking it, and notice it says uncode, and we've got rid of that one. And then the third way to uncode is by using our control click in a different way. So this segment says vocabulary, and we can click on it and it'll highlight the segment that has been coded to vocabulary. Let's say we wanted to remove that. I can also highlight directly in the document and control click, and I get a menu which has as one of the options at the bottom uncode selection from existing codes or cases. And again, we will have to search for the one that's not grayed out, and we can remove it. So now we've actually removed all the coding that was in this document. So uncoding works just about as easily as coding. It's just the reverse of the same. And you can do it in detail view from your file, but you can also uncode when you're looking at a node. So for instance, if I have the node take dictation there, and I decide, oh, that doesn't really belong there, I can highlight that. I can control click. I can then come to the action menu that says uncode selection. From an existing code, which is going to be take dictation. And again, that's the one that's not going to be grayed out, and it disappears. That's how you code and uncode.